Hi, Misha here, and this is a completely unplanned, unscripted video because we had a rough night and day. Tornado went through here last night after 4 a.m. and took down the power. It's still out, going on about 16 hours later now, and damaged property. Luckily, I don't know of any lives lost, but some went to the hospital. Hard to get news because we don't have power, and therefore I don't have internet. Wife's at work, so yeah. The only thing I do have are charged batteries for the camera. Of course, there's no lighting inside, so I hauled the table out on the side porch. The lighting will be interesting. So, the video topic. I wanted to talk about 5 imports that are semi-automatics of military guns. 5 guns that are 21st century evolutions, adaptations, developments for militaries, and 5 guns that, 10 years ago, we could not have dreamed we'd see semi-automatic versions coming in. You get lucky sometimes. We really have had a golden age of imports, and in really guns in general for the last 15 years. If you want, ever since the end of the assault weapons ban, September 2004. So I thought we would showcase some of the newest and most radical. They're all going to be 5.56, 223, and they're actually all going to feed from Stanag mags. I didn't set out initially to do that, but it's just kind of how it shook out. Keep in mind, again, no power, so no computer. I don't have any notes. This is totally off the cuff because it's about the only halfway productive thing I can do. We're fine here, we're safe, but unfortunately just a couple blocks away, several things were damaged or even destroyed. So, yeah, it's going to be a trying couple of days, I'm sure. And it's turning very cold out here right now, so I'm standing out in the rain and wind and cold just for you. So if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. And please do comment, because I'm going to ask you your opinions. And if you'd really like to help support things, go over and check out the link to the Patreon page. Every little bit, every dollar helps greatly. You have no idea. And with that, let's get started on this completely off-the-cuff video. As a baseline for comparison, we'll start with the Colt LE6920 Socom, which is very, very close to the U.S. Army's, U.S. Marines M4A1 carbine. It is nasty weather out here, but I do it for you guys. Yeah, this isn't an import, but the AR is what most people are going to compare imports to. So, features. But you know the deal. This, of course, has the 14.5-inch barrel, permanently attached, Surefire on mine, Knights quad rail, aim point. The A1 was a full auto version. The original M4 was burst. Used standard mags. Very much just an evolution of the AR15, really based on the XM177 all the way back to Vietnam. So not really meeting the criteria for this video, but again, good baseline. Alloy upper and lower, steel barrel. Not exactly light by today's standards, but not the heaviest thing ever. The good old, it's non-reciprocating, but hit you in the chin charging handle. The practically useless forward assist. 4-position non-folding stock. Newer versions have the ambi safety. I will say that it is a minor miracle that Colt ever did this version. They were so reluctant for so long to do anything this close to military. But a couple of years before the buyout. They were that desperate. So this is a gun 20 years ago. Of course, that would have still been during the assault weapons ban. We could not have dreamed of being offered. And it definitely is one of my favorites. But keep the good old 6920 Socom Colt M4A1 in mind as we look at these foreign 21st century options. And you can decide for yourself if you think they're better or if the trusty AR still reigns supreme. You know, one good thing, GoPros can get a little warm. In this weather, this one's not going to. First off, we're going to start with the Taiwanese T-91. And this is stretching a point a bit to call this a 21st century design, and also stretching a point to call it an import. But my video, so I can stretch if I want. This is definitely based on the AR, but as you know, it's a short stroke gas piston. So the gas system is totally different, which requires a very different bolt group. And the furniture is unique. It's interchangeable with AR15. Well, at least not the handguard, but the pistol grip and the stock can be. But it's unique to this gun. And this is a take on the T65 and T65K2. But whereas those had a different gas system, this is a greatly simplified and refined version. It's just all around better. It feeds from Stanag mags. They make their own in Taiwan. They're not great. I think most people prefer other makes, but they do have their own. This is the newer M-LOK compatible handguard. Original ones were plastic, polymer. This has a 14.5-inch barrel with permanently attached combination flash hider muzzle brake, A1 style lower, and this is the quick removable simple rear sight. There's also a carry handle rear sight for these. Flipping her over, you can see this is a slab side upper, no forward assist, and not much in the way of a brass deflector. The stock looks Car 15, but it has 3 positions rather than 2 or 4, so it's right in the middle. There's the middle position. Has a unique pistol grip with storage. And this is Taiwan's standard service rifle. It was first shown off in 2002, and with first deliveries around 2004-2005. And they have made hundreds of thousands of these to date. I believe roughly 300,000, give or take. And there have been a few different export customers as well. The idea is simplicity, reliability, lightweight, and flexibility. It's not a super heavy barrel, so it's actually a little bit lighter than that M4 we looked at. Has a lot of the same features. The gas system is very easy to clean, and these are affordable for Arsenal or factory 203 to produce there. As far as having a semi-automatic here in the US, it's kind of come in stages. Now today, T91 Tactical offers pretty much complete guns like this. In the beginning, the upper was sold as the Wolf A1 upper. Little different configuration, but still a Taiwanese upper. The lowers come in from Taiwan as 80% forgings and are finished out here. Likewise, the stock and grip. So all the parts are available, namely from T91 Tactical, to build or have them build a very authentic gun with, essentially all Taiwanese parts. So while it comes over in pieces to get around the 89 import restrictions, when done here, it can be all that it can be. And since it is compatible with many AR15 accessories and parts, you can customize it to your heart's content. So compared to the M4, it's about the same overall length. It is a little bit lighter, and one can argue direct impingement or short stroke gas piston. They both use rotating bolts. They both feed from the same style of magazine. The Taiwanese gun, well, you know, in the U.S. military, was a 3-round burst, full auto. They kind of went back and forth. Well, the Taiwanese, they just did away with all that and went to a 4-way selector. Safe, semi, 3, and full auto. That's why there's no stops. So, I guess that's one way to answer the question, right? Of course, this isn't revolutionarily more advanced. It has the same style of upper and lower, same type of barrel manufacturing. So, one can argue if it's really an improvement on the AR-15, but Taiwan sure thinks it is. And keep in mind, this system dates back to 1976 in Taiwanese service, and their military needs a good gun, with China being their next door neighbor. And it's been purchased by several foreign nations, many in the Middle East, a few in South America too. So it's been one of the most successful, non-AK, non-AR guns chambered, especially for 5.56 NATO, in the world today. And these are still very much in production, and there are modernized versions and variants, as you would think. So, yeah, this is my first pick here for foreign gun. What do you think? Better, worse than the M4, or maybe it's a draw? Let me know in the comments. Next, we look at the Beretta Arx 100. And hey, this is practically all polymer, so it shouldn't mind the damp outside here, right? This is, of course, a civilian legal semi-automatic only version of Italy's current service rifle, the Arx 160, which was adopted in the early 21st century, kind of in stages, replacing the AR-90 itself, very similar to the SIG SG550 in a lot of ways. The ARX certainly has a unique look to it, either the 100 or the 160. These appeared in America around 2014, and there was a lot of excitement about them, and then it kind of died off. Sales were sluggish, so Beretta discontinued them a couple of years ago, and then everyone wanted one again. Story of everything, right, guys? Like all of these, it fires 5.56, has a 1-in-7 twist, feeds from Stanag mags. Beretta does have their own pattern of mag here that's actually steel, so a little more heavy duty and reliability. They're very nice mags, real close to the HK. And aside from the barrel, the bolt group, and kind of the trunnion, this is all polymer. It's kind of a monolithic handguard receiver assembly. The pistol grip, trigger guard, this is all one pack that comes out. And then, of course, we have shoulder stock here. We have a standard pick rail on top, and it does come with these admittedly pretty blocky, I guess we could call them iron sights, but they're actually all polymer. They're kind of a knockoff of a Magpul, but they are military issue. So, the positives. This too is a short stroke gas piston. It uses a rotating bolt. It's simple, durable, very easy to take apart. In fact, the barrel is quick removable, kind of like taking a Glock apart. You just squeeze these down and disassemble. This lower can come off to give you access to a mount. There's a short pick rail in front where I've got a Beretta foregrip here. Several traditional sling loops. No QD sockets on this one. Pistol grip is non-replaceable. It does have a small storage compartment in it though. Some complain about the trigger a lot. I've never found it terrible, but then again, I'm weird. I'd say the biggest thing about this, well, two. It's lightweight for what it is. For a 16-inch barrel combat rifle, it is not much over 6 pounds unloaded. And it might look bulky, but it actually feels very ergonomic. So good weight, good balance. Second, it is as ambidextrous as a gun can get. Not only are the controls fully ambi, you can switch ejection from left to right by just using a bullet tip, pressing in. There's a hole. Where's my hole? Things to live by, right, guys? There's my hole back there. Put your bullet tip in, it switches ejection, and you can also flip the charging handle on the fly. So, good positives. Negatives. Because of the QD barrel, accuracy is average. It's perfectly good combat accuracy, but some match target shooters may not be most pleased. The charging handle is small and does reciprocate. That's kind of part of the feature, just to get it what the Italian military wanted. So, what can you do? This was made for a military specification after all. Flipping her over. You see the other side here. No dust cover. I don't think that's really a negative. Pretty standard AR style safety. The stock. It folds over. So that's nice. And it does lock securely. But this is all the way in. Quite a short length to pull. And all the way out, I'm going to set you down for 1 sec, is not much longer. Now for someone like me, who's not terribly tall, it's okay. And if you're wearing body armor, it's okay. But if you're a tall person wearing a t-shirt, it can be kind of short. And I also will say the butt plate is just hard plastic. It is checkered, just hard plastic, not rubber, and it has kind of a convex curvature to it, which a lot of military guns do, but for shooting comfort, usually more of a concave butt plate is preferred. I also will say, when these came out, they were kind of pricey, $1,500, $1,600 or more. Towards the end, though, they were $1,000, even $800, so they did drop, and for that, they were a bargain. These are very reliable. Been shooting one for 8 years. Got my first one Christmas of 2014. They come with a nice case. Like I said, they come with one nice mag. They come with the backup sights for whatever that's worth. They come with a sling, but it's kind of a fancy pants sling. This is a Beretta sling on mine, but it's just a simple 2-point sling. Works for me. It's one of my favorite guns, but it is odd looking. But it is definitely not an AR. And it's definitely made for a military, not for a civilian market. To me, that's a good thing. I like guns as close to their military counterparts as is legally possible. But if you're looking for a gun that was customized for the U.S. shooting public, the ARX100 really was not it. One final thing I'll say, some people have picked up the ARX160-22, and based on how it feels, they think that the ARX100 is made of cheap plastic. That is not true. The 22 is not made to the same standards as the ARX100. The ARX100 is actually built with military polymer to the same specs as the ARX160. So if you picked up one of the 22s, it's not fair to judge that for this. Just thought I'd mention it. So what do you think? Do you like the kind of guppy modern plastic look of this? Do you like the fact that it's fully ambidextrous? Do you like the lightweight? Or is it just too weird and not customizable enough? Is the trigger just a deal breaker for you? yeah, let me know in the comments. But this is definitively a very cool import we got for a few years, and is definitely a military issue gun that has seen combat, and it has been sold outside of Italy as well. Beretta has found some export customers too. Number 3, the Israeli Iwi X95. Last month did a video kind of revisiting IWI's Tavor SAR, which is the semi-automatic version of the TAR-21, and gotta mention the X95. Now the TAR-21 was developed starting in the late 90s and was first issued in limited numbers in the early 2000s. But a variant of it, the Micro Tavor, ended up gaining a lot of steam in 2009, and rather than the full size or even the carbine version of the TAR-21 or the CTAR-21, they ended up buying the MTAR-21, and after a few updates it became the X95, and that started to see IDF service 2010, 2011, 2012. The semi-automatic version of the SAR, the SAR, came in 2013, and then a couple of years later, we got the semi-automatic X95 here. This is mine. As you know, it's a little modified. And it is a bullpup. And it's Israeli, so calling it European is a bit of a stretch, but again, my video, my fun, and it is definitely a true import and a high-quality military-type gun. The original X95 military gun had a 13-inch barrel, but in 2014, once they knew it was going to be their standard issue gun, and based off some field feedback, the IDF started purchasing what they called the X95-2. It had a few improvements, including a better trigger, an updated handguard, the kind of square type like you see here, and as standard, it had a 15-inch barrel instead of 13. Now these barrels are pretty easy to remove with the right tool, so they still could have 13-inch barrels installed if needed. They also had a version, kind of a de facto DMR, with a 16.5-inch barrel and a semi-automatic trigger pack, so actually quite similar to the version here. So yeah, again, 223, feeds from Stanag mags. Here we have the early IWI type mag. This is what they shipped with the original SARs. Cool idea. Has a window, has a button on the bottom that protrudes when it's fully loaded. Unfortunately, the quality of these mags is especially after time. They don't wear well. So later guns just shipped with Magpul mags, and the IDF uses whatever they've got. This really is very close to the current X95-2, especially after the modifications I've made. I've considered SBRing this, but I'm really quite happy with it the way it is. What I've done, I've replaced the big thick rubber butt plate with the original checkered plastic one. I've replaced the cutlass style grip with the, well, you see it here, trigger guard style. Luckily, the whole grip is modular, unlike on the SAR, and even the grip panels are modular, and I did install a set of IDF grip panels. Now, these do make the grip wider, which normally for my hands would not be great, but for some reason, the curve, the way it works, it fits me very well. Moving to the front, I took the long handguard and top rail off and installed the short handguard and short top rail from the SBR kit. I don't actually have the 13-inch barrel, don't worry, and I installed an IDF grip on the bottom. For overall length purposes, I permanently affixed the A2 style flash hider, which satisfies the 26-inch overall, so we're good there, it's fine. This is quite an ambidextrous gun, has the M4 style mag release, has the bolt release back here, safety here. While it's not as easy to switch ejection sides as on the ARX 100, you do need the left-hand bolt. You can remove this plate here and make it eject from the side. So an armorer could do it quite easily. It does have flip-up iron sights that very neatly mesh into the top rail. They do have tritium inserts as standard. This is IWI brand red dock, kind of a knockoff of an EOTech. I thought it was appropriate. This is an IDF modern sling, held on with official IDF paracord. We have a couple of QD sling points. And typical bullpup. This is as short as legally allowed. The military version is about 22 inches long. The civilian version, unless you SBR, it needs to be 26. And it's quite lightweight. I don't think it's quite as light as the ARX. It's got a little bit of junk in the trunk back here, but it is quite light. What I really like about installing this short rail and short handguard, it really changes the overall feel in a very good way, in my opinion. This is designed to be an urban weapon, something that can be easily transported in vehicles and aircraft and used in streets or narrow walkways or houses. It's not intended for long range. These are quite durable. I'm not sure they're quite as sturdy as the AUG when it comes to comparing to other bullpups, but otherwise they have been battle tested. You know, it's Israel, so of course they have. And they hold up quite well. Colt Hermaforge chrome line barrel, 1-in-7 twist. You know the deal. The only negatives, I really think the trigger on the X95 is quite nice for a bullpup, but some still don't think it's good enough. I like the mag catch just fine here, but you know, bullpups are a bit of an acquired taste, if I'm being honest. Probably the biggest downside people will talk about on the X95 is the accuracy. And while some reports claim 4, 5, even 6 MOA, realistically, what we really see with decent ammo and a shooter that's familiar with the gun, and the gun is not known to have any problems, like, you know, flukes happen. There's a ringer in every batch, but you know, consistently, you're seeing 2.5 MOA, maybe give or take half an MOA. So I agree, 3 MOA is not fantastic, but 2.5 is acceptable for a gun designed to be a short barrel military carbine. This is not meant to be a long range sniper rifle. So yeah, I think the accuracy thing has been overblown a bit, but that's just my opinion from a blind guy, so take it as you will. But most people who own these report very good reliability and acceptable accuracy for practical size targets, if you know what I mean. Plus, they're really fun to customize. They're very serviceable. It's easy to field strip them. It's actually quite easy to take them down. All you need is a couple of different Allen wrenches and one special barrel tool, and you can strip the guy completely apart. And they do sell conversion kits, either to 9mm 300 blackout or an SBR kit if you want to roll that way. Whereas the Tavor SAR has been canceled, no longer being imported, the X95 is still coming around, and actually a fresh batch came in 2021 and 2022. They come in a few different colors. This is definitely the standard in the IDF. There was kind of an erroneous report last September that they were replacing it with the M4. That was false. They're not only still using these, they are still purchasing new ones. Sure, they use M4s and other guns too, but this is their standard issue. So it'll probably stay in service for a very, very long time to come. I really like it. Of course, I still like the SAR. It's different, it's weird, and this is something I don't think we thought we'd ever get. I remember when the SARs came in and people knew about the Micro Tavor and X95, there was kind of a question of how could a short barrel gun come in. I mean, a lot of guns can come in as pistols, but it's kind of hard to do a bullpup pistol. But IWI found a way, and it's a high quality gun. Price wise, they're kind of in there with other bullpups, 16 to 1800. So not cheap, but then again, imports are never cheap because you're having to cover a 10 to 11% tariff, shipping costs, 922R cost, any kind of remanufacturing that might need to be done here. It adds up. But what do you think? Does the relatively lightweight, compact size, modern features, ambidextrous features, does that matter? Or does the less than amazing accuracy, many proprietary parts, higher price tag, does that kind of knock it out for you? By the way, the charging handle is non-reciprocating and can be put on either side, just to let you know. Let me know what you think in the comments. How does this compare to the other guns and the M4 we started with? Next up, it's one you knew I would include. The Czech CZ Bren 2. Now, disclosure, I have a stock on it. I said last year I was SBRing it. I ran into a snafu with help with the paperwork, actually fingerprinting issue. So that didn't happen. Although I'm actually planning to go back and try it again next week. So in the interim, I had to permanently affix about a 6-inch extension to get the barrel to 16 inches. I hate it, but I kind of got backed into a corner. I'd already given away the pistol brace adapter, and it was either have nothing on here or have the stock on. Well, can't put the stock on with the barrel under 12 inches, so I made do. Yeah. Well, I will make it right, I promise, but you know how the last couple of years have been for all of us. Anyway, this is the Bren 2S, the initial import version, the semi-automatic version of the Bren 2, sometimes erroneously called the 806. That name was never used by CZ. This is the current issue gun in the Czech Republic, along with the original 805 Bren. And there are two versions used. The A1 has a 14-inch barrel, and the A2 has a 11.3. This is essentially all the improvements suggested for the Bren, the original. You know them. We're not going to go over all of them, but a few of the highlights: lighter weight, and this is very light. It's kind of hanging in there with the ARX, maybe even a little bit lighter. Non-reciprocating charging handle. Easier disassembly, especially for the bolt group. This now takes Stanag mags, although the 805 could as well. It has a different lower polymer to save again on weight, a newer style of stock, what have you. There's a lot of things we've talked about. The Czech military version tends to have standard pick rails. This one comes in with the M-lock. Of course, you can add pick rails. Adjustable gas system here. It does come with some nice metal iron sights. Nice barrel. Ambidextrous controls. Unlike the original Bren, it does have a bolt release on our empty mag. There's a storage compartment in the pistol grip. Yeah, they tried everything they could to refine the 805. And by pretty much everyone's account, they succeeded. We do have a brass deflector. Now this can only eject from the right side, but with this rather prominent brass deflector, shouldn't be a problem. By the way, this is also a short stroke gas piston, as was that DeVore we just looked at, X95. Kind of a running theme here. It too feeds from Stanag mags. Originally, the Czechs were issuing metal mags. More recently, they've kind of made their own take on a Magpul. 30 rounds. Seems to be a good mag. And here's our stock. Like a lot of modern stock. So I'm going to sit you down for a minute. If you're thinking my hands are getting cold, you are correct. It folds to the side, kind of locks into the brass deflector. You can still fire it with the stock folded. Very much like the ARX style. Nice solid hinge. It's got a good area for your cheek, and it does have multiple positions for adjustment. And it does have a longer length of pull, went all the way out, than the ARX. And it does have a concave rubber butt plate. So all around a nice stock. A nice comfortable grip. Nice trigger on this, but I still think the 805 has a slightly better trigger, although this one is wider. Some people will probably like that. This has polymer, but it has an alloy receiver with an alloy front end, so it's not an all plastic gun like some of the others. And it is a relatively conventional layout. So more conventional than our bullpups or even the ARX, but definitively not an AR15. It just shares the same caliber. By the way, this has a relatively quick change barrel too. It's held in with a few screws. It even comes with the right torque wrench to remove your barrel, and the whole assembly just slides out. Kind of like a SCAR, although I think a little bit easier than a SCAR. This is relatively new to the Czech military. It's been around for about 5 years. But it is successful, and it has found some export customers. It took an already good gun, the 805, and improved on it in most every way. The only dings against it, I can say, the trigger is slightly not as nice. I don't want to say worse, just not as nice. And the relatively short front end, while it looks great with the 11-inch barrel, when you put the 14 on it, it does hang out because the 14 with the flash hider is over 15 inches, so it's nearly as long as this assembly as standard. It does have a bayonet lug in the middle, so that kind of breaks it up a bit. It looks a little silly. Another ding, the Bren 2 MS. This was the initial import semi-automatic version, and everyone pretty much loved it. Then they came out with the Bren 2 MS, especially for the American market. And while it's a good gun, they made changes that didn't need making. They went to a modular forend, which actually has one less M-lock slot. This has two on each side and bottom. It has only one. They went to kind of a swoopy top rail, and they eliminated the lightning cuts from the receiver. I mean, it's okay. If that's all we had, I'd be okay with it. But the 2S was approved for import. There's no reason they had to quit bringing these in. They just decided not to. Now, I've made my feelings very clear on the Bren 2MS carbine. I don't like it at all. But that's a story for another day. Also, you can talk about the 7.6239 version. There have been issues reported with it. Although, to be fair, other users say they love theirs. It's kind of hit or miss. The fact is, the 5.56 version is what the Czechs use, so it's the one that's went through the most rigorous testing. The 7.6239 version is for export, and there have not been that many purchasers in terms of military users. So, in my opinion, the 5.56 is the way to go. But what do you think? Is this superior to an AR? Do you like the more conventional layout, or do you prefer a bullpup? Or do you prefer the more space-agey look of the ARX? Or do you think the M4 still does it best? These things are kind of priced about like the rest, $1,700, $1,800. So, kind of the standard there. And they're still being imported today. With that, move on to our final contestant. Oh great, it continues to rain, and now the wind has also picked up. Fantastic. I can't feel my toes. Also, you knew it was coming. The Springfield Hellion. This is the semi-automatic U.S. civilian version of the Croatian VHS-2 manufactured by HS Product. And this is one of the newest in terms of the gun itself in military use. I think only the Bren 2 is newer. And certainly new to the American market, just released 2022. And we've already done a couple of recent videos, so I'm not going to harp on its features too very much here. But if I'm doing this video, I had to include it, because the VHS-2 has a very interesting track record, and HS Product went from knowing nothing about making guns in the 90s. They did a lot of experimenting with different systems and whatnot. They released the original VHS-1. It did quite well, and much like with the Bren 2 and the X95, this is the product improved version. They went away from the FAMAS style safety to more of an AR style. They improved the sighting rail system, went to a newer style handguard, things like that. Now the military version takes G36 type mags. However, in the beginning, HX Product made the VHS-1 to take AR15 mags. It was actually the Croatian military that requested a mag well for G36 mags because they had more of those than AR-15s. So luckily, this is a very modular mag well. One push pin that comes out. You can have whatever. And since it worked well in the test, I put the 20 round Magpul mag in it because I think it fits. As I've said in other videos, this definitely reminds me a lot of the G36 with this top rail and the charging handle. This is a ambidextrous gun. It's kind of a standard. The handle can fold to either side. The safety is on both sides. Ejection can be switched quite easily in the field to either side. You just need to pull a pin and flip the bolt around. So, yeah, quite ambi. It does have a last round bolt release. It does not have a manual bolt hold open. So, I've heard a couple of people lament it not having that, which seems a little silly. The handguard is not making contact with the barrel, so it's effectively free floating. This is M-LOK compatible. The military tends to have pick rail. What we noticed during shooting, this handguard system really lets the barrel stay cool. 16-inch barrel. This is not chrome lined, it's nitrided. It has a military style prong flash hider. It's very similar to the military barrel, but it doesn't have rings here. This is, like I said, 16. There's also a 19, 20-inch longer barrel version in military service. This is a standard rail with the iron sights. They're actually quite nice. They're very HK style. Not surprising, given the G36 influence. Very much a polymer chassis. It really reminds me of the G36 meets the ARX100. It kind of has that feel, plus bullpup. It is, again, short stroke with an adjustable gas regulator up front. There are a few differences from the military version worth pointing out. The barrel we already talked about. The modular pistol grip was done for the US market. I think they noticed how many people complained about the ARX not having a modular pistol grip, so they let it take AR-15. Kind of wish they hadn't, but I understand why they did. And again, we have an M-LOK handguard instead of the pick rail. Good news is the handguard's held on with one push pin, so easy enough to swap that out. And like I said, it takes AR mags, although if you found the Croatian mag well, it could easily be put in. Of course, being a bullpup, there's no folding stock, but one neat feature is that it does have an adjustable length of pull, and it's also spring loaded, which is great, so it immediately comes out. And for anyone who said the ARX had too short of a length of pull, this is be careful what you wish for, because I challenge anyone to say that the VHS Hellion has a short length of pull, especially with this fully extended. It does have a Pretty nice cheek riser here for the optic. And yeah, pretty standard, non-reciprocating handle. I will say the safety is a little awkward, especially to put on. Kind of got to stretch up, but being a bullpup, compromises have to be made. Trigger. I don't think it's as nice as the X95s, but I would say it's nicer than the ARXs, and it's nicer than the original Tavors. So for a bullpup trigger, I would put it on the upper side of average. This is a very modular gun. You can remove handguard, pistol grip, and magwell. You can also remove this entire top rail, like on a G36. It has screws and a dovetail. However, the barrel is fixed to the internal frame. So unlike the ARX or the X95, the barrel is not quick removable, or the Bren 2 for that matter. So that may or may not matter. The good news is it does seem to give it a little bit better accuracy. While this may not be the king of accuracy, sub MOA, it does seem to be delivering better results than either the ARX or the X95. What I'm hearing is 1.5 to 2 MOA, a lot depending on the ammo type. But early days, so we'll have to see. This is very much in Croatian military service, and interestingly, Iraq has purchased large numbers of these. We don't exactly know how many, but estimates are between 30,000 and actually upwards of 100,000, which seems a little high to me. Again, new to the market. Probably of all the ones we've shown today, it has the most changes from its military counterpart. However, not as bad as the Bren 2 carbine in my opinion, and a lot of the changes I understand. So, what do you think? Do you like the X95 better? Do you like the, I'm going to call it VHS 2 because it's what I prefer, better? Or are you a fan of the, or maybe you're a fan of the more conventional? Maybe you thought Stoner got it right with the M4, and none of these are really enough of an improvement to really warrant it. I get it. The AR has a lot going for it in America. Common parts. It's the most affordable. It's dependable. It's easy to work on. It's a very much good enough gun, and it's seen so much development over the years. It's hard to argue with, frankly. I don't know. I just thought this would be a fun video. Like I said at the beginning, no power. It's been a interesting day. I just felt like doing a video. So it'll be interesting to see how the lighting worked out here on the porch in this overcast day. It's been interesting. So let me know what you think. And if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. And please do comment to help out. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please do check out the link to the Patreon page. Yeah, would really help out a lot. I just thought this would be a fun video. Imports are always great, and they're often not around long enough. They're gone too soon, frankly. Of course, even sometimes domestic guns can do that. I really do think we're living in the golden age. At least we were. We might be seeing the end of it now. But 10 years ago, none of these guns would really be dreamt of. And we've had a lot of cool things come around. And that's kind of the whole point of this channel, is showing the unique guns. I don't know. But appreciate you hanging out with me, kind of helping support. It has been a rough time. And we'll get through it. So if you could, please engage with the channel. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.